we lost our business. We would do a live concert from our basement to pay the bills, and people would send us tips and Venmo us and all the things. And so, yeah, we did that for 12 weeks every Saturday night during COVID.
We actually do want to see somebody else win, and it's a little bit less competitive. And I'm happy to like say, hey, I know her. This is what she does. This would be a great fit for the problem that you have. I can't help you, but this person can.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Fuck Your Podcast. I'm Emma Pardo.
And I'm Katy Martin. And on today's episode, we have Miss Tara Hurst, who is someone that I've met here locally through networking, but she is a transformational coach. She started in the health and fitness world and is moving on to some awesome things that we're going to chat about today. So welcome to the show, Tara. We're glad that you came on.
Thank you so much. I'm excited that you guys asked me to be on. This is going to be fun.
So we're excited to have you on the show today, talk about what you're doing, but transformation's been a big part of what you do, and obviously it's part of your brand now. So tell us a little bit about your journey and like kind of what's led you to what you're doing right now.
Sure. I think at 40, I was having my midlife crisis. I laugh about it because it's like, ooh, I got healthy. But I remember going to my mom's house and kind of in tears. I was like, please tell me this isn't as good as this gets. Like, it has to be better. I felt terrible. I had been diagnosed with everything from fibro to chronic fatigue to restless leg, constantly neurology, MRI, just you name it. They were testing me for all kinds of things because they just could not put their finger on what all was going on with me, other than they just wanted to keep tossing pills at me. So I kind of just jumped in, took it upon myself, and started my health journey. It took me 15 months. I released a little over 100 pounds. I didn't really find a lot of physical activity until I had released about 60 pounds. I was walking at that point. At about 60 pounds, though, I was like, okay, this is getting fun. Like, I want to kind of start to set some goals. Started doing some weight training classes, and I found myself into Pride Fitness down in Wood River. And so I've been there about 8 years now. And that's really where the journey began, was that I just realized that if something was going to change, that change was going to be me. And I just jumped in and transformed myself. And then now here I am a decade later, helping to transform others. So it's been quite the journey.
Awesome.
I was going to say, I really liked how you worded that. You said you released X amount of pounds before you were doing certain activities. And I don't know. I just like how you said that. It's like you finally let go of it.
Well, what I'll tell you is that is actually a pretty new term for me. I always, for years, said lost, 60 pounds, lost 100 pounds. This year, I embarked on mindset certification training. And that was one of the biggest things that really stuck to me as far as when we went through that training, things that changing the verbiage and how you look at things. And, because here's the thing, if you lose something, you find it. When you release it, if somebody else wants to find it, that's okay. I just don't want it back. So then that's where the release comes from.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. Because that could mean so many different things. It could be mentally, it could be physically, it could be emotionally. So
language is powerful for sure. So from the time that you went through your own transformation and then moving into health and fitness coaching, is that something that you started pretty quickly afterwards and have been doing the last 10 years, or how did that come about?
So actually, no, it really took a while. So now I shared my own personal journey for years on Facebook. I would post my meal plans. I would post I would take pictures of everything I cooked on Sundays. I can meal prep in my sleep. And so I would do that, and I would constantly have people, hey, can you help me this or that? And so I would help make them meal plans and do. So coaching, though, no, not really. It's just that my presence was there. I shared very openly the good and the bad, when I fell and how I got back up and all the things. And so actually, I did not even consider coaching until COVID came. And it was actually just simply because my husband had lost both of his jobs due to COVID. And I was in early childhood for 30 years, and I had that job. We were, we didn't close during COVID. So, that was going on. I had to get super creative and create some income. My husband's self-employed, so it wasn't like he was getting unemployment like everyone else was. And we didn't get any thing. Like, so while everybody else was getting all this extra money to stay home, we had to get super creative. And so the opportunity came to coach. A friend of mine had been coaching on a program called Optavia. At the time, because I had re-injured my knee, long history of knee issues, I had put 20 of those pounds back on. And so I was in a place where I was very open to giving Optavia a try, as well as realizing, thankfully I did, because it was about a year's difference of when I did Optavia and then I actually jumped into coach. So I tried Optavia in 2019, released my 20 pounds real fast, easiest damn thing I've ever done. And then a year later when COVID hit, I was like, okay, what am I passionate about? It was a really good fit. Up until that point, I had spent 5 years really honing in on my transformation. And so jumping in the space to where I could then meet people where they were. So the beautiful thing is that I'm able to, I get to coach people in both spaces. So since I released mine on my own, and then I've also used Optavia, I could meet people where they were depending on what their needs were, their activities, all the things. And then I could put a program together for them that enabled them to reach whatever goal that they had set.
What is the most rewarding aspect of working with people on that level?
I would say the most rewarding is when that light bulb comes on and kind of they realize like they've started to believe in themselves the way that I've believed in them from the beginning. The one thing that has been such a blessing to me throughout all of this, and like I said, it didn't really, like my transformation story has so many layers because, keep in mind in the beginning, I was totally on my own. I did it, which is fantastic to know that you set your mind to do something and you do it. Whenever I got into coaching, I had a whole mentorship team that was basically, they were wonderful, pushing me out of my comfort zone, making me do things scared, all the things. And so once I really dove into that, it became really rewarding to kind of see that come back tenfold, realizing like, wow, like when they were pushing me, it's because they saw something in me I didn't see in myself at that moment. And so it's really been a lot of fun to see people push past barriers and do things that they, would have never done if they hadn't just started to take those steps in that direction.
Awesome. I was going to ask you, it seems like it's been obviously a very positive thing for you that this series of events has happened. Was there ever a time during this series of events where you were just like, what in the world am I doing?
Oh, like daily. That's the thing is, the itty bitty shitty committee that's in there that talks you out of everything. Unless you really get into doing some very, very intentional mindset. And so that's kind of really what takes me into this last 2 years of my journey is that's really been the most shift that I've seen. That has really been what's enabled me to kind of really get into my own shit so that I could show up for other people's in a space, because doubt and fear and all the things are still there. They're very much on the forefront. I'm not even sure someone that has done just an amazing amount of work could say that there's not at some point something that resurfaces. Now, the beautiful thing is I have tools now to call bullshit. So I know that when those feelings come up and those doubts and all those things come up, I'm like, you know what, fear, you're a liar. It's not real. And then you just, I push through it. And so gaining those tools and then surrounding yourself, with people who see greatness in you when you may not even see it yourself, it makes a difference, because sometimes you need that sounding board, to be like, hey, this is how I feel. And then somebody to be like, well, and that's not even, how in the world do you even know what someone else? Are you a mind reader? So sometimes we enter conversations with ourselves, and then by the time we talk through it, we realize like, okay, you're right. None of that makes sense. So.
Well, talking about just the last couple years, sorry, Emma.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Well, I just had a side note.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, listening to Tara now, it's like, I think about you and I, because there's times where Katy and I know the worth in each other. Sometimes we can't always see the worth in ourselves. And I think we've got a good system of calling each other on that bullshit. And that's just what I'm like, I wish I could find that within myself. So I'm not necessarily putting that burden on Katy to go hype me up. I need something. But it just made me think of that for whatever reason.
It is hugely important. I tell my clients, when clients are like, oh my gosh, I could never do this without you. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, I couldn't do this without you. It's finding your tribe. It's giving them permission to call you on the bullshit. It's giving them the permission to say, hey, you know what? If you ever see me talking or doing things in a way that you know are not congruent with my core values and all the things that we talk about on a daily basis, it's giving them the permission to call you out on that stuff, because sometimes we fall down that rabbit hole and we slide. And so, I mean, one of the things my clients hear me say probably more than anything is, fall down 7, get up 8. And it's really just allowing that person that sometimes if you get so sucked down into whatever situation or emotions or the feels or whatever is going on, that their hand is going to be there, even if they're ready to, slap you when you come up because they're like, what in the world were you thinking? It's okay though, because they, you two have that relationship, and I'm blessed to have that relationship with several people. Well, and Katy included, my newest adventure right now, she saw in me, she believed in me, even on the days where I was like, I don't know, are you sure? And here we are, like literally just a couple weeks later, and I am just in full motion, several clients, and I'm just, and it's beautiful. My first session with my first client, she's like, how'd it go? I'm like, amazing, and she didn't have a doubt in me at all, so it, the fact that she was in my corner, being, and it's funny because she was doing exactly to me what I do to other people. So
yeah, I knew you could do it. I mean, that was the thing. Like, it was natural. Like the part, it was just getting over the hump of like, you're on that cusp of, and a lot of people do this, like you just get on that cusp of overthinking the what ifs, and we all do it. We're human, but it's just like, you do know this. Like you're second guessing what you know, but like everyone around you can clearly see that you demonstrate like what it is that you're going to teach. So you just got to it's just like kicking you off the cliff. Just go do it. Like, I know you can fly, you have the wings, just go.
Oh, yeah. Up until recently, I am quite the overthinker. And the funny thing about that, I say up until recently, because that's an NLP thing that, if you say you're an overthinker, you're telling your unconscious you're an overthinker. So like, right. I used to say things all the time. So now I say up until recently, I was a hot mess. But the thing, back in March, I was asked to speak at our health coaches convention and sit on a panel, and there was about 700 people, and I was scared to death because I had never ever gotten up in front of people to talk. And so I was like, okay, so what's the subject? And they're like, overthinking. I'm like, wait a minute.
Oh man.
You just asked the overthinker to talk about overthinking. And they're like, exactly. I'm like, well, I mean, who else is going to do it better, I guess. So anyway, I did it, and it was kind of comical once everything was said and done, because I totally overthought it. It was no big deal.
Well, I was going to talk about too, just up until recently, but it seems like you talked about starting, like really getting into sharing your journey and also helping coach people in the health and fitness. Just like COVID was not that long ago. Like sometimes it feels like it's like you can't believe it's 3 years, but I mean, what you've done in the last 3 years is you're on a pretty quick trajectory. You're moving at a pretty fast pace into what you're doing now. So like you have an event coming up, you have a book coming out. So, how's that been as far as like all of this coming together? Do you feel like it's been fast? Do you feel like it's been a lot in the works? Share a little bit of that.
I definitely feel I have been fast tracked, and I everything I'm doing right now, I feel has been coming for a very long time. I just wasn't listening or paying attention. If I had listened and paid attention to things, I think I would have dove into this a lot sooner. Although I think this is the perfect timing, if that makes sense. So The people that are in my life and experiences I've had and all the lessons I've learned, I do believe are necessary so that I can, I am able to be where I am right now. So kind of how everything really came about. So COVID is when I started coaching. I basically, everyone's home during COVID. Everyone has all this extra time. And then everyone except for me apparently had all this extra money that they were getting. So a lot of people came on program and I was coaching. And so my coaching business exploded. Well, then, obviously last year, I guess it was, I really just made a decision that I was feeling pulled in a direction to just do more. It's great to, walk somebody along this journey. I had just been given and learned and found so many amazing tools along my own journey that I just felt it was a disservice to not offer those to others. So while yes, I could help them with health, I just realized that was just a piece of the puzzle. There was so much more that went into it. And so that's really what dove me into the mindset, which was a couple years ago, and then really diving into the spiritual journey part of it, to where I started to trust myself and listen to myself and follow my gut and just really dive into kind of intuition and things like that. And so last fall, I just had this like feeling, there's something more, something out there. And so I started kind of putting things into motion, sat down, made a list, okay, if this is where I feel led, what is going to get me there? Just like anything else in life, when I walk a client through it, what daily action steps am I going to take if I'm going to be able to see, this vision come to light? So I joined a church and women's group and started getting active and volunteering and doing all the things. And then in January, I joined LBB, which is the women's networking group. And that was when really the momentum started, because I started building a lot of relationships with like-minded people. They were moving, they were grooving. Like these weren't, people that were just showing up to have coffee. Like they were taking time away from their busy schedules and their daily calendar to be very intentional and purposeful to network. And so I knew I wanted to do a women's conference, because that, for me, I am all about empowering other women. And so I had put the conference in motion just on a whim, went down there, reserved a banquet room at Julia's, didn't even know who was speaking. I just knew that I was being led in that direction. And so I did that. And then on the plane ride home from the conference that I spoke at, the book came about in March. And so, yeah, it's an exciting year. So to think that it's been fast tracked, absolutely. So by October 5th, I will have my book launch. November 4th is the conference. And then November 18th will be the mindset certification in California. So I definitely have a crazy fall ahead, but I signed up for it. So.
Yep. No, but it's so
amazing.
exciting.
Yeah, I was going to say that's incredible. Hearing the whole story going like where you started and that scramble to figure out, navigate COVID and being stuck and not being able to have that income to like, look at you now. That's just inspiring, really.
Oh, it's crazy. I mean, you'll do what you have to do during COVID. So my husband's a musician, photographer, all the things. And so he's the team photographer for the Cardinals, and he was down at spring training when he got sent home. Well, we didn't know. I don't think anyone knew really what COVID was or what was going on or how it was really going to like shut everything down. And so, of course, we're like, we'll just do what we've always done. He'll play music on the weekends. Like we've always, he could easily go out and play one night and, make enough to do groceries and a few bills or whatever. And so for him to come home and then everything was shut off, everything was closed down, the bars, everything. And so we had to get really creative. I am not a singer. He is. I mean, I have sang, but during COVID, desperate times is desperate measures. And yes, for tips, I did become a singer. And so every Saturday night on Facebook, we would do a live concert from our basement to pay the bills, and people would send us tips and Venmo us and all the things. And so, yeah, we did that for 12 weeks every Saturday night during COVID. So
wow,
yeah.
That's awesome. I saw a couple people would do that, but I don't think I saw anybody was doing it and getting tips. It was just like, here, I'm going to provide this entertainment because we're all stuck here,
Right.
But it's super creative.
Yeah. No, it was such a blessing. I mean, there was days where I would just be in tears because I was like, okay, I really don't know how we're going to like pay the bills, or, okay, I'm having to decide between sending this in or, getting groceries or doing whatever. And I'd walk out to the mailbox and someone would have sent us a check for $500. And it was like, thank you so much. You have no idea what that meant to us. You played some song and it took whatever it was. And that happened several times to where it really put a lot of things in perspective when people were messaging us out of the blue and they're like, hey, there is nothing going on. We are, our entire family is going to be here. This is the first time in years, like we've all been able to sit and eat together and watch this. And it's become a regular thing. And so it was a really important time in my life of just the lessons that it taught you, that it's like, because I'm just a scrapper by nature. And my husband's the same way. I mean, we're not afraid to work. And I think that's just really, we both have great work ethics, and, people will be like, oh my gosh, do you have something else? What else are you doing right now? And I'm like, well, why not?
Right.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. It's better to not have all your eggs in one basket, as you saw, right? So like now, and what's crazy is the things that so many out of that stressful time comes something amazing on the other side. So, and which basically, like you said, it sparked what you're doing now. When did you guys open the record store?
Well, and that's what I was going to tell you. So in an 18-month period, Billy and I both completely changed careers.
Yeah.
Which is insanely crazy. So COVID, we owned a company called Front Row Photo, and we had it for years. I'm not sure how many years, maybe 12. And so we did everybody's youth sports, high school, select teams. Billy also worked for the Telegraph, and so he did all the athletes of the year. Now, keep in mind, he was still the Cardinal photographer. He still did work for the Blues, things like that. But our bread and butter was our photography company, and I helped him with that. So COVID completely we lost our business. So not only did he lose, get sent home from spring training, there is no music to be done. We lose our entire photography business as we've known it for 12 years. So that is really how the store came about. So in goodness, what is it? June or July? I'm not sure exactly. Well, 9 weeks. Okay. So we signed, we closed in August, and then we opened the doors in October. So Billy's sister is a realtor, and I remember to this day, just because it was, I remember looking at her and laughing about this. Like, it was kind of like are you freaking kidding me laugh? But she was like, hey, she's like, I just, would you have an open mind? Come look at this property, whatever. It's for sale. And even though we both have great credit scores, I mean, both of us are in the 820s. I mean, the world's a happy place. We had no income. And so Billy's self-employed. I had everything with the kids on me. So both their car loans, both their college loans, everything's attached to my income. And so we have this great space to look at and no way to finance it. No, I went to 3 different banks. Nobody would give me a loan. And so I basically was like, Wendy, you're funny. There's just no way. And there have been so many, God moments throughout this last 3 years that there's just no other way to explain them, that doors just opened and paths were cleared. And that's why I said, I think if I had really been listening and paying attention longer than, things, but who knows? I think the timing is perfect with it. So on a whim, Wendy calls me and she's like, can you and Billy come up here? So the space we're going to look at was the old Black Sporting Good next door to Mr. Donut. And she's like, can you come up here? The owner's here. He wants to meet you. And I'm like, Wendy, what's the point? I don't want to waste anybody's time. Like, I have attempted to get loans. There's just no getting a loan right now. She's like, no, he wants to meet you. Come on up. So we go up there, never met the man at all. Wonderful man. Super excited that somebody was going to buy it because he's owned it for years and years and years, the original owner. And he was just ready to be done with it and pass it on. And anyway, we just kind of sat there and told him, we're like, we would love it. The space is beautiful. Billy had talked about wanting to do a record store, but this was like pipe dreams, little thoughts, little things like maybe down the road once we retire kind of thing. And on a handshake, never meeting this man ever, he puts his hand out and he's like, I'll finance you.
Wow.
And yeah. And it was one of those things like, okay. So not only did he finance us, he allowed us our first year to make half price payments every month. We had to, we did a good faith, on a handshake, of course, because he was like, $10,000 at some point, just catch up. He's like, because how crazy to buy a brick and mortar and open up an actual store. We opened up in October of 2020. So COVID was still going pretty strong.
Yeah.
Pretty strong. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, that's where our store opened up, and the community has been so supportive ever since. And so we, and the story about that, oh my gosh, this could probably go on and on for another day, but So once we bought it, it was like, okay, so now what? Billy, we were like, what do we do? And so Billy's high school football coach, Chris Skinner, amazing. I will forever owe this man. Every day, whenever he was not working, he was at the store, and him and Billy took everything from down to the studs and rebuilt the whole store together.
Wow.
Everything. And so, and for nothing, he refused to take anything. He would,
Wow.
I offered, besides taking him and his wife out to dinner. That's all he would ever let us do. And so, throughout all of this, like I said, we have had so many amazing people in our lives that helped us in so many different ways. Now, I do have to say that I've learned that means in some form or fashion that we are putting that out into the world as well.
Right.
That makes me feel good to know that, I don't know if never mind. I was going to say, you can't see it behind you, but be the light. And that's just one of my things that I've held on to for so long is just shining that light no matter what, and just keeping going, and no matter how dark it gets in the season and all the things. And so yeah, that it has been a crazy couple of years. There have been so many lessons though that I've learned about myself, and I'm just in a completely different place now.
Oh, that's awesome. How is all of that, all of that transition? So not only professionally, so we've talked about, you and I, just in the conversations outside of this, have talked about transformation, physically, transformation spiritually, transformation just personally on yourself from a health and fitness. But then how does that affect your family dynamic? And, now that with all of these things going on, and just, how has that also impacted just the day-to-day difference in your life, Billy's life, the kids' lives, things like that?
Well, I'd be lying to say that at times it's not very, very challenging. One of the biggest concerns that I have is, and that I have had for a while, is what happens, as I keep growing and they don't, or they don't understand what I'm doing, or they, and I've had conversations, with the kids, especially Anna, it might be something like, well, you're always on your phone, or this or that, or, and things. And so I've had to explain to her, and I've had to take ownership that I've had to make some boundaries for myself.
Right.
And that means, being more intentional with my time and making sure. And so Thursday morning, tomorrow morning, Anna and I are going out to breakfast, and things like that. Cause it's just about realizing, hey, I have flaws, we all are learning. And so the mindset, I guess, there's so many things that I've learned over the last several months. And the biggest thing is if I get angry with someone or whatever, it's really all about me. Where else does it show up in my life? Why am I allowing that to affect me? And so in some ways it's really helped our relationships, because I may have blown off, just blown up or whatever at something before, and now I don't. And teeny little things. It's okay, this is going to sound silly, but up until recently, literally a few months ago, when you wake up in the middle of the night, you walk in and the toilet seat's up, and you're like, well, I used to be like, well, he should put that down. And then all of a sudden it occurred to me, and I'm like, wait a minute. I'm getting frustrated at him for leaving it up. He should be frustrated at me for putting it down, because I'm making him put it down. Why shouldn't he make me put it up? And little things like that. So it's really just coming to terms with realizing, to see everyone has a different perspective, and honoring that, and just understanding that as I grow, that, they may not understand it. So just to make the time to sit down and explain to them kind of why or when or where or whatever's going on with me.
Awesome. Absolutely. So, yes, we're at this point in the episode where we kind of switch gears from the professional business side. We can talk a little bit more about your personal life, and not super personal, obviously, but as a coach, as an entrepreneur, work is the number one priority, as it is for most entrepreneurs. But when you're not working, what can people find you doing?
So when I'm not working, I'm probably scaling the bluffs somewhere, climbing around, hiking around in the woods up at Pier Marquette. I found a love of, which is hilarious because I am not that person. Back in the day, if you had ever told me I'd be working out for fun, I would have laughed you out of a room. I go down to Pride. I love coffee dates and coffee meetings. I do a lot of networking, sometimes just to get around people and get to know people. I hang out with my parents a lot. Like I spend more time with my parents than I do with any of my friends. My mom and I are best friends. And so typically if you see me out and about, I might have popped in at the record store. I'm not up there all the time. I'm typically somewhere with my parents, probably at a Goodwill, just working out somewhere, going somewhere, or attempting to talk my friends into doing something that they probably don't want to do, but they just do it anyway because they love me.
That's awesome.
That's great.
I wish I could spend more time with my parents. I moved. So it's like I moved to Texas. They live in Missouri. So I do miss spending time with them sometimes.
Well, you tend to appreciate it as they get older, as you get older too. So that dynamic will change a little bit. Well, who knows? Maybe you'll end up moving back here at some point. Or maybe they'll come visit more.
Katie, don't put that out there just yet.
I'm not saying that from a negative
put
standpoint.
That energy.
That's a very selfish statement for me to make.
She does want you back here, though. We've talked about it.
Oh boy, that's funny.
So well, it's crazy. So I've lived in Godfrey, the Alton area since I graduated high school. Lived in the same, like where I live, where Justin and I live now. That's he owned that house. And I moved in with him and we've been there ever since. So your kids, like they're close to the same age as like my kids, like in that same ballpark. So I know that I remember recognizing you, but I didn't really know you until we met at that first LBB meeting and like where we officially met one another. But like I recognized you. It's like I know she lives in the area or we have kids that go to school together. Like I've like probably seen you around town. And then we started going to the record store. And then Justin asked me the other day, he's like, oh, does Tara know how the Billy and I know each other? And I'm like, I don't know. I've never brought it up. And I'm like, well, I know that you know him, but aren't you guys close to the same age? And he's like, well, yeah. He goes, but do you know how I know him? And I go, no. I'm like, no, I don't know. He was the manager at the Alton Sam Goody for a really long time. And so Billy would do in-store concerts then. And I'm like, I go, in-store concerts. He goes, yeah, he's a musician. Did you not know that? I'm like, I guess I didn't. So, but yeah, that's how they knew each other. Cause I mean, they always talked like they really, and to me, I'm like, oh, well, he's older than me. So I'm like, well, maybe they work together, it just didn't click. But yeah, that's how they knew each other.
That's funny. Well, that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, Billy's born and raised in Grafton. I'm born and raised in Alton. And then probably, goodness, I don't know, the November before we got married. So November of 97, we moved to Nashville. And then we came back in May of 98 to get married and then back. And so we lived in Nashville for 8 years. Both the kids were born down there. And so then during that time, I mean, Billy's been a musician for years, but he had just put an album out and did a ton of things. Yeah, goodness gracious, I look back on that time and it's so funny because I think that's why I am the way I am whenever I meet people get so starstruck about people and I just don't. And I think it's just because he opened up for Martina McBride and like all kinds of people. He would do all these concerts and I'd just be backstage. And down in Nashville, the church I worked at, I had Vince Gill's daughter in my class. And, so we would see these people all the time and they were just like us. And so I never really thought twice about it because it was just the way it is. And then we moved back up here when Will was 5 and Anna was 3 and he was getting ready to start kindergarten. And so we moved back. And so we've been back ever since. So yeah, it's interesting because I run into people all the time that are like, oh, I've known Billy, because the funny thing is if you ever talk to him about it and you find out like he started singing when he was like 3 or 4. Oh, wow. And he used to dress in this little Elvis suit. And I mean, it is so, I for years, I'm like, how much would it cost to like, we get another one of these outfits and wear it for Halloween? Yeah, it's a no-go. It's a no-go.
He's like,
that's funny. Nope. You said you got married May of 98?
Yes.
What day?
May 9th.
Oh, I was so 3 days old. I was 3 days old. Wow.
You're just
now I feel really old. Yeah. We just had our 25th wedding anniversary. We went to Hawaii in May, and then I just had celebrated my 50th birthday. So it's been an exciting year.
Awesome.
Well, speaking of Hawaii, Cole and I were supposed to travel to Maui, and we had to cancel that trip.
Yeah.
I'm so sad. That was my favorite place. Like we went to 2 different islands while we were there, and I was so sad. Well, first off, we get back and all I really wanted to see was the volcano. And so we missed that. It erupted like after we left. And then when all of this went down, it made me, it was a gut punch. It just made me feel so sad. Because that place, it is so beautiful. It is just so beautiful there.
Yeah. And it's like the aftermath it is awful. Like it's really sad to see. Like, I mean, you had some of that with one of the most recent hurricanes too, because my which hurricane was it? Ian? I think it was Hurricane Ian that came through and like wiped out Sanibel Island, where you have people that like that's where they vacation. So, and I don't know what's worse. I don't know what's worse, a hurricane like completely taking buildings out or a fire completely taking buildings out. But because I know that there was, the people died in both instances, but yeah, it's really
I feel
sad.
like, no offense, I feel like a hurricane would be easier because it's not just ripping it or it's not burning it to nothing. You still have debris. It still sucks regardless, but
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know what would be worse.
It was so sad. Like the biggest thing that came to my mind was like, I was obsessed with that tree while we were there. Like it takes up, if you've ever been there, it takes up like a whole city block. And I had Billy take pictures of me up in the tree. I mean, it was so beautiful. And we did a bunch of sunset pictures there at the, with the boats and everything. It was just such a beautiful, beautiful place. And to see the first night that I heard about it and saw it, like people were shooting video from their boats. And I was just like, oh my gosh. So now they think, who knows, the tree could maybe come back, that would be something, because if that tree can come back, they can build back everything else. It was just really sad. I mean, you don't ever want to hear about casualties and you don't ever want to hear about business law, any loss. Just knowing how much, coverage it did take out and just how beautiful it was when we were just there. It was heartbreaking.
Yeah, gosh. No, I the same tree you're talking about, my aunt and uncle had their pictures taken in front of it just a few years ago when they went. So it's sad. So, 'cause especially when you can clearly see that. I know with the hurricane, the hotel that we would stay at, since I think my in-laws went on their honeymoon there, it's completely leveled. Like it's just gone. Like it's not even that like a roof was ripped off or, a wing was ripped off. Whole building's gone. So, and they'll rebuild, but it's like you have so many, just like both places, right? You have so many memories, and when a natural disaster comes through like that. So it's sad. Hopefully they can get rebuilding, pretty soon.
To switch things to a lighter note,
right?
I just realized this. So
what?
The 1-year-old German Shepherd likes to bring gifts for approval. And most of the time it's socks. And yesterday he brought me a pair of socks from my closet because I accidentally left my closet open. And I didn't want him to have them. So I put them up high where he couldn't reach them. This whole time. There's a pair of socks. Anyway,
you just noticed they were hanging out there.
I was like, I'm like looking at my background, and I'm like, what is that above this camera? I'm like, what is that? It's socks.
A pair of socks.
Anyway,
that's funny. So, I mean, if we were going to do this, the one thing that we want to change for the podcast going forward, if we were going to do the grinds your gears segment with guests, let's not end with that.
That's what I thought about too. Yeah. I was like, I was gonna bring it in here, but then I was like, wait a minute.
We did that with David's podcast, Hawaii, but we're all a bunch of bitches on that podcast.
True.
So we tend to gripe on that episode. But so Tara, give us a little bit more information about the book and the conference coming up. Like, where can people find it? Where, who's the I mean, it's a women's conference, so it's designed for women. Is there like an ideal type of woman? Do they have to be a business owner? Like what's kind of your target audience for the conference?
So yeah, let's hit the book first. The book is going to launch on October 5th. For 48 hours, people will be able to purchase to get the download version. Oh, that's funny.
That was funny.
They'll be able to download the version for $2.99. And then it will be able to be available paperback probably 2 to 3 weeks after that. The conference is basically healthy mind, healthy body, healthy spirit. It is for any woman. There are going to be speakers on mindset. There's going to be a women's holistic health. There is going to be a minister. I'm going to be speaking kind of about how to fill in the gaps for a 10-year journey. We also have there is going to be a business component to it. Someone is coming that is going to give an amazing presentation. She is actually the instructor of the mindset program that I'm going through. And then we have a lady named Lori Hopkins, which is she is a spitfire. She used to be the superintendent of Jerseyville schools. And she's going to come and speak about being your authentic self. And so it's, there's going to be a few vendors there, and it's going to be an amazing event right now. This month, tickets are only $99, and that includes lunch. So they do go up next month, so definitely if they're going to do it, they should do it now and lock it in. It's just going to be a great day. It's going to be, yes, there's networking component to it, but that's really not it. This is just about convincing and showing and just really allowing people to see, like, I want people to leave so willing to step out of their own comfort zone, willing to maybe do something scared just because that, there's been a light, or a fire lit under them.
And we're excited to be a sponsor of part of the event.
Yes, I'm super excited. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're looking for sponsors to showcase your businesses during the event. It's the whole thing is women empowering women, and that was really what was the driving force of this, was to just show how powerful we actually are when we work together as a team, and people, it's not about anyone trying to be better than another person. It's really just about, hey, these are the resources I have. These are the tools I have, helping each other. Because at the end of the day, every time we help someone, it really does help us in some way. We learned a lesson, or we, got a contact, or just something comes of it. I think way too many times people are worried, like, oh my gosh, if I help them, the attention will be on them and not me. And it's like, that's so silly.
No, gosh. And women usually, they're just being part of LBB. We've talked about it probably on 2 other podcasts, I think, Emma, recently, just the difference in networking with just women. Not that there's anything wrong with men, but the fact that we actually do want to see somebody else win, and it's a little bit less competitive. And I'm happy to say, hey, I know her. This is what she does. This would be a great fit for the problem that you have. I can't help you, but this person can, and just all of these women. One thing that's exciting, and it's exciting to be able to see this at your conference too, because you'll just see even more women who are at different levels of success. But the one thing that's common, and this is kind of a funny way to say it, the one thing that's common about all of them is that they're successful because of their uniqueness, because you don't see so many women trying to emulate one another in order to say, well, if I act the way this person does, then I will achieve that success. Like, they just don't think that way, where you tend to see it more in the world, especially in the world of men's coaching, where it's like copy and paste and copy and paste and copy and paste. Like, if I can pretend to be like that guy, then I will eventually become that guy, where you just don't see that as much with women. And it's way more refreshing, and it makes you more excited to support what they're doing. And I wish I would have been a part of it sooner, but just like joining groups like LBB and the people that I've met just in the last 6 months has been super exciting. So I'm here to cheer everybody on. I'm here to cheer you on. I'm here to cheer the event on. So it'll be a good event.
I think you're so spot on when you say that. There's going to be a little bit where we are like, we allow ourselves to kind of look in and be like, oh, well, look what they've accomplished. Yeah, let me fast track myself a little bit, simply because, oh, okay, I see the avenues they're using, or right. I see the networking things that they're doing, and things like, we still have to show up as our authentic self,
right.
And that's the thing, is we're going to be too much for some, not enough for others. Not everyone is our ideal client. And so the best thing that I can do, you can do, we all can do, is to literally show up, let people have the opportunity to get to know us, and then make a decision. Like, okay, is that someone that I can work with? Because working with someone is not always easy. You're going to get down into the mud and the muck and the nitty gritty of it. And you want it to, I've had so many people reach out to me and choose me because they didn't know me, or choose me because they did. And it's fun whenever you get to know somebody on those levels. And yeah, that is the one thing I will say about LBB is that it has been such a blessing. I mean, I was talking to a couple of the authors over the last few days. We're doing some Zooms, and out of the 40 authors, 10 of us are from LBB, and
Wow.
I wouldn't have met them without joining, and the conference as well. Several of the sponsors are LBB, and so LBB has been a really huge instrumental part of my last year, so I can't speak of it enough. So, and I'm super excited because that's where we met. So,
Yep. So I think it's great.
Full circle.
It does come full circle. So tell everybody where they can find the information about your book and the event.
So the conference is on Eventbrite. You can also find me on Facebook. I post the links on there. The event page is on there as well. The book will be on Amazon on October 5th. When we will also be sharing it. All of the authors will be sending it out and into all of our various networks to, push that out. Our goal for the book, it's funny because I'm very new to this. And so I kind of went into it a little blindly. Now I'm seeing, obviously we want to get up to international, #1 international bestseller. So we do have an author from Canada, one from Australia, and one from Japan. So that's exciting. And so hopefully everyone reaches out to their networks and we jump in. But yeah, ticket wise, it's on Eventbrite. You can just type in Women's Summit and you'll find it. It is Saturday, November 4th, and it's at Julia's banquet room down in East Alton.
Awesome. Thank you, Tara, so much for being on the podcast today. I think this was a really good episode, and I loved getting to know more about you because Katy is always Tara this, Tara that, like bragging on you to me. She's like, you got to meet her. You got to friend her on Facebook. You got to get her book, like promoting you very well. So it was very exciting to finally meet you in person because I know we're friends on Facebook. But if anybody is wanting to hear a certain topic, hear some advice, just chat with us. You can contact us through our Instagram at F__K your pod, or you can email me at Emma@99creatives or Katy at
Katy@99creatives.
And Tara, where can our listeners find you?
Oh, honestly, I should be better at all of this, but Katy knows that I'm so new to it. I just got business cards last week. The easiest and best way to find me is on Facebook, and it's Tara Lipe Hurst. Or if you're local, pop in the record store and Billy will send you my way. But that really is honestly the best way to get me. I do have a fancy old link tree and all kinds of things set up that are going to be coming out. But yeah, that's really the easiest and best way is to either send me a message or email me at coachtara.hurst@gmail.com.
Awesome. All righty. Well, thank you again for coming on. And to all those listening, don't forget to do the damn thing. Okay, bye.
Adios.